thank you for your commitment to leadership, and to this community, and to this country. Kate, thank you for helping to organize and to bring all these great people together to greet us at that Dodge Grand Caravan, to make sure that we found this room so we could be with you all. Adrian, for getting us started, and for your words. All of those who are serving in some capacity for this country right now. Representative Dillard and State Senator Allen were kind enough to come back and say hello to me and welcome me to the community that they represent. I want to thank them for their service too. And to, let's hear it for them. Everyone who's serving in office right now, appreciate it. Thank you both. And to all the dads, happy Father's Day. Way to go. Thank you. My wife Amy is with our three kiddos right now. Ulysses, who's 12, his sister Molly, who's 10, who's about to turn 11, and their little brother Henry, who's 8 years old. And just to show you what she's made out of, she's on a backpacking trip with them in the Gila Wilderness in New Mexico. So all things work out. They're going to come out of that wilderness okay. I'm going to land at about 9 o'clock tonight in El Paso, and we'll be reunited after a couple of weeks on the road. And I cannot tell you how terribly I miss those kids, and how grateful I am to Amy for everything that she does. She's working, she's the emotional support for her husband, and she's making sure that those kids turn out okay. She recognizes that our number one most important job is to ensure that they turn out okay, that they have the support, the education, the love that's going to allow them to grow into great human beings who hopefully will give far more back than they ever take from this country or from this planet. If we pull that off, we will have won, right, at the end of the day. And though I miss them, and though I am constantly drawn back to them, I will tell you that those three kids are the ones who pushed me out the door. Amy and I fear their judgment. When they look back on us, on the year 2019, on the people assembled here, when they think about the decision before us in 2020, when they know the challenges that we will have faced, an economy that is working really well for a small number of Americans, not well enough and not at all for too many more. I think about school teachers and public school educators. Some are in this room right now. Far too many who are working 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet, because they're not paid enough to focus on just one job. Unlocking the lifelong love of learning within every child, inherent to who they are and their success. We do that, there's no stopping that kid. There is no beating this country. I want to make sure that we meet that challenge by paying every public school educator a living wage, treating them with the respect and the dignity that they have earned by dedicating their lives to public service. They took out loans for the privilege of teaching our kids. And right now in this state, they cannot afford to pay those loans back, to put food on the table, to pay the note on their mortgage. And fully 50% of school teachers in South Carolina leave within 5 years of entering the profession, creating a teacher shortage in this state and robbing the next generation of the excellence in education that they should be able to look forward to. So my kids are going to know that we stood with public school teachers and we did it together. Are you all with me? We all know that we've done something about the fact that tens of millions of our fellow Americans are unable to get any kind of health care at all. They can't go to a doctor. They can't afford their prescriptions. They cannot take their child to a therapist so that she is well enough to learn the next day at school. And this is happening in the wealthiest, the most powerful country on the face of the planet. And to our everlasting shame, if we allow this to continue, we are witness to people who are dying of diabetes 97 years after the development of insulin. Witness to those being consumed by the flu or curable cancers. We know that we are up to this challenge. We know that it is unconscionable for someone with clinical depression or bipolar disorder to have to get arrested, to go to the county jail, which might be one of the few places where they're guaranteed the care that they need to make life livable, even if temporarily for them. In my home state of Texas, the largest provider of mental health care services is the county jail system. The largest inpatient mental health care provider is the Harris County Jail in Houston, Texas. Not only unconscionable and immoral, incredibly expensive, $110 a night to keep someone and their potential and everything that they can contribute to themselves, their family, and this country locked up behind bars. For a fraction of that cost, we can provide world-class, consistent outpatient mental health care, get them back on their feet, and make sure that they're well enough to do everything they were placed on this planet to perform in the first place. Raising that family on Father's Day, finishing their education, working a job, shouldering their fair share of the burden so that it rests a little bit lighter on the rest of us. My kids, your kids, the generations that follow will want to know that we were able to achieve guaranteed, high-quality, universal health care, which means primary health care, it means mental health care, and it also means, importantly at this moment, that every woman makes her own decisions about her own body and has access to the care that allows her to get it. Doesn't want to know. We were at the beginning of this trip to South Carolina in Beaufort, which is an extraordinary community, extraordinarily rich with history. We paid homage to Robert Smalls at his gravesite. Have to admit, and I'm embarrassed, maybe the excuse is I'm a Texan. Maybe because I'm a white man in this country. Did not know of his heroism during the Civil War. The fact that he commandeered a Confederate ship, ran it through the lines, and brought his fellow Americans to freedom, and then came back to South Carolina and served in the state legislature. Served in the United States House of Representatives, and served well past the end of Reconstruction. Absolutely exceptional for a black man in this country in the 19th century. But I also learned, by listening to Queen Quet of the Gullah Geechee Nation, that every time it rains in that community, it floods in that community. Sea level rise, the intensity, the duration, the frequency of storms, not because of God, not because of Mother Nature, but because of me and you, our emissions, our excesses, our inaction in the face of the facts and the science and the truth. The fact that we've already warmed a degree over pre-industrial revolution levels Celsius, just in the lifetime of the people here in this room. We're on course to warm 3 or 4 degrees more by the time my kids reach the end of their life, unless we change course now. And why is that important? Because the floods that we see here in South Carolina, the 58 inches of rain, the 58 inches of rain that fell from the sky in Houston, Texas in 2017, which is the landfall record from a single storm in the recorded history of North America. The fires in California, preceded by the droughts in California. These disasters that have consumed lives and property, and in some cases entire communities, will pale in comparison to what my kids and your kids on this Father's Day are going to see over the course of their lifetimes, unless we meet that challenge because we fear their judgment by ensuring that we free ourselves from any further dependence on fossil fuels, get to net zero greenhouse gas emissions by the year 2050, get halfway there by 2030. Make sure that the citizens of the Gullah Geechee Nation are protected, that the citizens of Houston, Texas are protected, that the citizens of Pacific Junction along the Missouri River in Iowa are protected because they're at the front lines of climate, they're at the front lines of pollution. Race today in this country is the best predictor of your child's ability to be able to rely on the water that they drink, on the air that they breathe. Those lower income and minority majority communities are the ones who are paying the price for climate change right now, for pollution with impunity by corporations who've been able to purchase the outcomes and the safety from any consequence for their actions. So in our plan, we put them first. We make sure that we invest in their communities to make them more resilient. That the jobs of today and tomorrow, wind and solar, the two fastest growing jobs in the United States, are the jobs that they are trained for so that they have the skills to work them and to command a living wage for the rest of their life. And then farmers and ranchers and producers and growers, rural communities, what if we put them in the driver's seat? Pay those farmers for the environmental services that they want to provide. Planting cover crops to pull more carbon out of the air. Using precision till and regenerative agriculture to disturb less of it that is in the soil. If all of us do everything we can, everybody doing their part, then this country can set the example and take the lead globally, convene the other countries of this planet to do their part as well. And then our kids, looking back on us, are able to say with pride that they met this challenge and they overcame it. They will not look back with scorn and ask themselves, who were those pendejos of 2019 and 2020? That's our decision. And let's make sure that as we're talking about meeting these challenges, we bring every single one of us into the fight. We understand that some people, by race and ethnicity, are down by law in this country, that we imprison more of our own people than does any other country on the face of the planet, and that prison population is disproportionately comprised of people of color, some doing time for possession of a substance that is legal in more than half the states in this country right now. Though those executives at the pharmaceutical corporations who helped to produce overdose deaths that numbered 70,000 last year, have with complete impunity been able to avoid any accountability or justice. What if we decided we were going to bring everyone in to justice in this country? We were going to end a war on drugs that has become a war on people. We were going to stop the schoolhouse to jailhouse pipeline that begins not in high school, but in kindergarten. A child of 4 or 5 years old of color, 5 times as likely to be disciplined or suspended or expelled as a white kid in this country. And that inequity cannot just be met by resources, though that has to be part of the solution. Black majority schools underfunded to the tune of $23 billion in this country right now. We need to make that investment in our future, or we can expect a segregation in our schools worse than that which existed before Brown versus Board of Education in 1954. But it must include equity as well as equality in funding. That means we hire and retain teachers who look like the students that they are teaching before them in this classroom. Expectations are higher, outcomes are better. On this day last year, we were in Tornillo, Texas. It is a small community outside of El Paso, about an hour's drive from the city center. Not easy to get to, considering that you're going to be on 2 flights just to get to El Paso in the first place. We're the westernmost county in the state of Texas, the only county in the Mountain Time Zone out of the 254 in our state. And that is exactly why